Now, live on stage, Bob Shipstadt presents the original Sesame Street Live. See Jim Henson's Muppets in a Sesame Street Spectacular, The Missing Bird Mystery, featuring all your favorite Sesame Street characters.
There's been a report of a bird missing from Sesame Street. Everyone keep a sharp eye out for this big bird.
Tickets available at usual ticket outlets, also charged by phone.
The first Sesame Street Live show to visit Louisville was, of course, the very first show they ever did. That being A Sesame Street Mystery, The Case of the Missing Avis, or as it was known later, The Missing Bird Mystery. It performed several shows from Wednesday, December 3rd to Sunday, December 7th, 1980, meaning it visited Louisville during its first tour. The show performed at the historic and iconic Louisville Gardens, which is also where they held the previously mentioned Holiday on Ice shows. The Gardens actually had to scale down their normal seating arrangement so kids could see the stage in a more intimate setting. This would also be the case for future Sesame Street shows that performed there. The plot of the show is Big Bird runs away from Sesame Street after Oscar tells him his friends forgot about his birthday, when actually his friends were planning a surprise party for him. He then meets showman and con artist Phineas T. Barnswallow, who wants to keep Big Bird and his all-bird troupe forever. It's then up to the rest of the Sesame Street gang to find Big Bird and bring him back to Sesame Street, with the help of Inspector Fortescue Farquhar and the New York Department of Missing Birds. To promote the show, Cookie Monster and the Count visited J.C. Penney's at the Jefferson Mall. They held a breakfast event as well as a meet and greet. The following year, 1981, Sesame Street Live didn't visit Louisville. But I should go ahead and say that sometimes in this video I will be referring to Sesame Street Live by different names, like SSL or just Sesame, just to make things simpler for me and you. Anyways, in 1982, Sesame Street Live returned to the Louisville Gardens for their next performance. This time they were there to perform Big Bird's super spectacular totally amateur show. I couldn't find a plot for this show, but I bet it had to do with Big Bird and the rest of the Sesame gang putting together a super spectacular totally amateur show. It performed at the Louisville Gardens from Wednesday, December 8th to Sunday, December 12th, 1982. Sesame Street Live would return to Louisville again in 1983. The show that visited this year was Sesame Jamboree. I also couldn't find a plot for this show, but going off of the merchandise and promotional images, it appears to be the gang putting on a jamboree that's cowboy or western themed. Sesame Jamboree played at the Louisville Gardens from Wednesday, November 16th to Sunday, November 20th, 1983. Unfortunately, SSL skipped Louisville during its 1984 tour. However, a different kind of Muppet Live show did visit the Gardens that year. This was none other than the legendary Muppet Show on Tour. During its original run, it stopped here and performed from Wednesday, October 3rd to Sunday, October 7th, 1984. Yes, I know it's not Sesame Street related, but hey, it's still Muppets. And I decided to throw in a few non-Sesame Live shows in this video since they're all somewhat Muppet related. In 1985, Sesame Street once again returned to Louisville. This time it brought the fan-favorite show Save Our Street to the Louisville Gardens. The plot of this show is Mr. Meanie, the main villain and an original character created for the show, wants to tear down Sesame Street to build a parking lot. He plans to do it while the gang is at a county fair. When they find out, they do everything they can to save their street, but will they succeed? Spoiler alert, they did save their street. Fun fact, this was the first Sesame Street show to introduce Snuffleupagus since the original Holiday on Ice shows. The show ran here from Wednesday, October 30th to Sunday, November 3rd, 1985. After this show, Sesame Street Live would take a hiatus from visiting Louisville. Fast forward 3 years to the year 1988, when Sesame Street made its grand return to the Derby City. The show that came to town this time was Big Bird's Sesame Street Story, which was a fictionalized in-universe version of how Sesame Street's TV show was created, told through the perspective of the characters. This would also be the first Sesame Street Live show to feature Elmo, who would of course become the star of future shows. The show ran from Wednesday, January 20th to Sunday, January 24th, 1988, and held many promotions and giveaways during its run. Before the show came here, they did a promotion with Frisch's Big Boy, where kids could color a picture and have a chance to win $1.50 off of Sesame Street Live tickets. Keep in mind, tickets at this time were only about $9 a person. The Thursday performance was Family Night, and it actually sold out the Louisville Gardens. The Friday show was Camera Night, where kids got a free Sesame Street camera. And finally, the Sunday show was Channel 15 Appreciation Night, where the first 1,500 kids got a free Sesame Street Live cup. 1989 would be a busy year for Sesame Street here in Louisville. This is because Sesame Street visited not once, but twice with 2 different shows. The first live show was Big Bird Goes Hollywood. It visited the Gardens from Wednesday, January 25th to Sunday, January 29th, 1989. In the show, Guy Smiley wins a movie studio but must put together a movie in 1 hour. It's up to director Big Bird and the rest of the gang to help out and put together a movie. I wonder if this show was made as a tie-in to Follow That Bird, since it was about Big Bird in movies, although it actually came out a year after Follow That Bird did. By the way, if you haven't seen Follow That Bird, I highly recommend it. It's probably one of the best Muppet movies ever made. Anyways, the second show to visit was the classic live show Big Bird and the ABCs. It ran from Friday, November 24th to Sunday, November 26, 1989. The show's plot goes as follows. Tee-Hee, an alien from the planet Crayon, crash lands onto Sesame Street. The Sesame Street characters then teach her the alphabet, while also helping her get back home. A fun fact about this show is that the character design of Tee-Hee was actually thought up by Jim Henson himself. There was some concern about her design being a bit too scary for the show's target audience, but Henson wanted to teach children the message of don't judge a book by its cover. In this case, Tee-Hee may look scary, but she's actually really sweet. There were a lot of events and trivia surrounding this specific show coming to town. First, a few days before opening night, they held auditions at the Louisville Gardens, since they needed extra performers for the show. Then, since the show opened just as the holiday season was starting, there were some Christmas-related events that involved the cast. For example, to promote the show, Santa Claus and the Sesame Street characters rode a trolley through Liberty Street and 4th Street Live to the Gardens. Also, Cookie Monster made a special appearance at the Oxmoor Center Mall to do a meet and greet and to welcome Santa Claus to that mall. And with that, we've concluded the 1980s portion of the video. We now move on to when Sesame Street visited Louisville in the 90s.